come here, you. Hey.
What?
Say $5,000.
Why?
God, why not $1 million?
Well, you know what? Even if we can't sell them right away, we can use them.
I'll stay down here by these guys, and you go stand down there. And we'll bid against each other. I'll throw them off. They won't know what's going on.
For 13 seasons, Jarrod Schultz and Brandi Passante gave fans relationship goals in their own dysfunctional way, bickering their way through storage auctions while building a business and raising 2 kids. America fell in love with the young guns, the underdogs who turned abandoned lockers into a family fortune. But behind the cameras, Jarrod's life was unraveling in ways that would eventually destroy everything. And at 48, Jarrod Schultz is watching his television career, his family, and his reputation crumble into dust. Join us as we expose the heartbreaking truth about Jarrod Schultz. 16 months behind bars. Years before he became a public figure, 19-year-old Jarrod Schultz was arrested in California for felony possession of a controlled substance, specifically methamphetamine. For most teenagers facing their first drug charge, this would be a terrifying moment that leads to reformation. For Jarrod, it was just the beginning of a pattern that would define his next 5 decades. He pleaded guilty to meth possession and received a 60-day sentence, getting out early on probation. Most people would take that second chance and run with it, grateful to avoid serious time. Jarrod lasted approximately 1 week before he was arrested again. This time, the charges were even more serious: transporting narcotics and driving under the influence of alcohol. The judge saw exactly what was happening. Strike 2, committed just days after being released from Strike 1, showed zero rehabilitation and zero respect for the justice system. The punishment reflected that reality: 16 months in state prison for narcotics trafficking. 16 months in a California state prison in the late 1990s wasn't some minimum security white-collar facility. Sources later revealed that Jarrod was housed alongside violent offenders whose crimes made drug trafficking look minor by comparison. And according to reality TV magazine Reality Weekly, that's what finally got through to him. When Jarrod got out of prison in the late 1990s, his life did change. In 1999, he met Brandi Passante while working as a sales manager for a carpet cleaning company in Tustin. She had just been hired, and Jarrod, as her boss, pursued her romantically, despite the obvious ethical issues with a manager dating an employee he supervised. Neither will admit who made the first move, but they quickly became a couple. Brandi became Jarrod's anchor, the relationship that allegedly kept him from slipping back into the drug lifestyle that had cost him 16 months of his youth. They had their first child, Cameron, in 2003, followed by their daughter Peyton in 2005. By all appearances, Jarrod had successfully reinvented himself. Ex-convict turned family man, drug dealer turned thrift store owner, criminal turned reality TV star. But the problem with burying one's past is that it never stays buried. Starcasm, the reality TV blog that uncovered Jarrod's criminal history in 2012, even managed to get their hands on his mugshots from 1997. The photos show a young man with a shaved head looking directly at the camera with an expression that's equal parts defiant and defeated. That's the Jarrod Schultz that A&E didn't want viewers to see. Instead, the network marketed Jarrod and Brandi as the young guns, the underdog couple trying to make it big in the competitive world of storage auctions. Jarrod's troubled past was occasionally hinted at on the show, with vague references to difficulties he'd overcome. But the specifics, the drug charges, the 16-month prison sentence, the fact that he was a convicted felon, those details remained carefully hidden. The redemption narrative worked. Viewers loved Jarrod and Brandi. They cheered for the couple running a thrift store called Now and Then, bidding on storage units, discovering treasures, and bickering in that affectionate way that suggested a solid relationship underneath the surface tension. The show even spawned a spin-off, Brandi and Jared Married to the Job, which ran for 8 episodes in 2014. But here's a detail that's crucial to understanding what would come later. Despite being marketed as husband and wife on Storage Wars, and despite having a spin-off literally titled Married to the Job, Jared and Brandi were never actually married. They lived together for nearly 2 decades, raised 2 children, built businesses together, and became famous as a couple. But they never legally wed. That distinction matters because when their relationship finally imploded in 2018 after nearly 20 years together, there was no divorce or legal framework for dividing assets or establishing custody. There were just 2 people who'd built a life together, deciding they couldn't stand each other anymore, with all the messy complications that entail. It wasn't until the season 13 premiere in April 2021 that Brandi publicly revealed the split. "I'm not with Jared anymore," she told the camera, confirming what fans had been speculating about for months. The revelation shocked Storage Wars' loyal audience, many of whom had watched Jared and Brandi's relationship evolve over more than a decade on television. In a June 2020 interview on the Dad Diary podcast, Brandi provided more context. She explained that she preferred to keep her private life private, but confirmed they'd separated in the fall of 2018. She described herself as a single mom to Cameron and Peyton, noting that, while the teens weren't interested in appearing on her social media, she devoted most of her time to them. Jared, she implied, was rarely in the picture when it came to parenting. For Brandi, the split seemed to be a relief. In later interviews, she spoke about finally being free to make her own decisions, to live without constant conflict, to raise her children in a more peaceful environment. She didn't publicly discuss what caused the breakup, maintaining that it was a private matter. However, on April 30th, 2021, the world would discover exactly why Brandi was grateful to be free from the relationship. What were the details that were eventually revealed? The night that destroyed everything. On April 30th, 2021, at a bar in Orange County, California, Brandi Passante was out with a group of friends, enjoying a Friday night. She'd been separated from Jared for over 2 years at this point, and according to her later social media posts, she was finally feeling free. Then Jared showed up. The exes got into a heated exchange. According to TMZ, who broke the story days later, Brandi told Jared to leave. It was a reasonable request. She was with friends. They were no longer together. She had every right to ask her ex to leave so she could enjoy her evening. Jared refused to leave. And what happened next would end his Storage Wars career, destroy what remained of his public image, and prove that the 16 months he spent in prison learning from violent criminals hadn't taught him as much as he claimed. According to law enforcement sources who spoke to TMZ, Jared allegedly pushed Brandi twice while yelling at her and her group of friends. This wasn't a verbal argument that got heated. This was physical violence in a public place, in front of witnesses, against his ex-partner and the mother of his 2 children. By the time police arrived, Jared had fled the scene. A police report was filed, and investigators followed up days later, contacting Jared for his statement. He denied ever putting hands on Brandi, but the witnesses and evidence apparently told a different story. The Orange County District Attorney's Office charged Jared with 1 count of misdemeanor domestic violence battery. This wasn't a case that got dropped for lack of evidence or because Brandi refused to cooperate. The DA believed they had sufficient evidence to prosecute, which meant they had witness testimony, possibly video evidence from the bar, and a credible victim willing to press charges. For Brandi, this incident was the final confirmation that leaving Jared was the right decision. In the months following the bar altercation, she posted that cryptic Instagram message with her free tattoo, making it clear that escaping her relationship with Jared had been necessary for her safety and well-being. But the domestic violence charge wasn't Jared's only legal problem in 2021. In October of that same year, he was charged with driving under the influence of alcohol with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more. So within 6 months, Jared had been charged with domestic violence against his ex-partner and drunk driving. The pattern of behavior suggested someone spiraling out of control. And there was one more charge waiting in the wings. In July 2019, Jared had been charged with resisting an officer after an incident in Lake Forest, California. The details of that encounter were never made public. According to Orange County court records examined by Starchasm, all 3 cases appeared to have been combined, with a jury trial scheduled for June 20, 2023. Court documents suggested Jared's attorney was attempting to work out a plea deal that would avoid the trial entirely. By June 22, 2023, all 3 criminal cases had been pushed back to July, with the battery charge slightly modified from what was originally filed. The most recent public information showed a pre-trial hearing scheduled for July 24, 2023, for both the DUI and resisting an officer cases. The battery case had a separate pre-trial hearing scheduled for July 18th and a jury trial scheduled for July 24th. After that, the public record went silent. A&E made a choice when those charges became public. They could stand by Jared, give him a platform while the domestic violence case was pending, and continue profiting from his appearances. Or they could cut ties completely, making it clear that domestic violence had no place on their network. They chose the latter. For fans who'd watched Jared and Brandi for 13 seasons, the domestic violence charge was devastating. This wasn't the playful, bickering couple they'd loved. This was a man who allegedly got physical with his ex-partner in public, who fled before police arrived, who showed exactly 0 growth from the teenager who spent 16 months in prison, supposedly learning not to be violent. The tragedy isn't just what happened to Brandi that night, though her experience as a domestic violence victim should absolutely be the primary concern. The tragedy is also what this revealed about who Jarrod Schultz really is beneath the reality TV persona. For 20-plus years, the narrative was that prison reformed him, that meeting Brandi saved him, that he was an example of redemption, proof that people could overcome troubled pasts and build successful lives. But the bar incident on April 30, 2021, shattered that narrative completely. And Jared's response to losing everything would prove he'd learned nothing from any of it. Life after fall from grace. After the domestic violence charge, the DUI, and storage wars firing him, Jarrod Schultz retreated to the one thing he still controlled, the Rush Bar and Grill in Lake Forest, California. He'd purchased the bar in April 2019, right before his first run-in with law enforcement for resisting an officer. According to the bar's website, Jarrod Schultz, family man and self-made entrepreneur, pursued ownership of the Rush Bar and Grill in April 2019. Jared has owned numerous businesses and decided his next adventure would be to take on this new opportunity and adventure with the goal of running a great neighborhood bar. The Rush Bar and Grill operates as a standard neighborhood bar and restaurant, offering televised sports, live music, and karaoke. It's family-friendly, with activities for kids while meals are being prepared. Most customers apparently don't even realize Jared owns the place, which is probably how he prefers it, given his tarnished reputation. There have been hints about a new relationship. Photos posted around 2021 showed Jared with a woman identified as Rochelle Beckman. His Facebook profile picture remained a photo of him with Rochelle as of February 2025, suggesting they're likely still together. But unlike his time with Brandi, when every aspect of their relationship was documented on television and social media, Jared keeps this relationship almost completely private. The contrast with Brandi couldn't be more striking. She continues appearing on Storage Wars, maintains an active social media presence, interacts with fans, and has moved forward with her life. There are hints she's dating someone new, though she keeps those details private. She appears on TikTok, posts on Instagram, and generally seems to be thriving post-Jared. Meanwhile, Jared is running a bar in Lake Forest, posting nothing online, making no public appearances, and avoiding anything that might put him back in the spotlight. It's the behavior of someone who knows his reputation is destroyed and has no path back to redemption. In early 2025, Jared made a surprising statement on Facebook. "It's just not the same without me," referring to Storage Wars continuing without him. The post suggested he'd like to return to the show, that he feels his absence has diminished the program's quality. But it's unclear if that's a genuine desire to return or just nostalgic wishful thinking. The reality is that A&E bringing him back would invite criticism from domestic violence advocates, could alienate viewers, and would send the message that violence against women can be forgiven if you're entertaining enough on television. His net worth, estimated at around $2 million, comes from Storage Wars earnings, his outlaw apparel clothing line, which still brings in approximately $700,000 annually, and the bar. He's not financially ruined, but he's professionally blacklisted from the industry that made him famous. Cameron and Peyton, his two children, are now adults or nearly adults. Cameron was born in 2003, making him 22 in 2025. Peyton was born in 2005, making her 20. They've grown up watching their father's public disgrace, seeing him charged with domestic violence against their mother, and witnessing his fall from reality TV star to bar owner hiding from the spotlight. Jared rarely posts about his children, and they appear to maintain their privacy. Brandi has mentioned that they prefer not to be on her social media, suggesting both kids want nothing to do with public life. Given what they've witnessed, that's entirely understandable. And the most heartbreaking part is that Jared still doesn't seem to understand what he's lost or why. At 48 years old, Jarrod Schultz has destroyed every good thing in his life. His relationship with Brandi, over. His relationship with his children, strained at best. His reality TV career, finished. His reputation, permanently tarnished. And unlike his 19-year-old self, who could claim youth and inexperience, Jared has no excuses left. Prison didn't teach him not to use drugs. It taught him not to get caught with drugs. Meeting Brandi didn't teach him to be a good partner. It taught him to hide his worst behavior long enough to maintain the relationship. Reality TV fame didn't teach him to value what he had. It taught him he could get away with being who he always was as long as people were watching. And losing everything hasn't taught him accountability. It's taught him to retreat, to hide, to blame everyone but himself. The heartbreaking part isn't that Jared's life fell apart. It's that it didn't have to. Every step of the way, he had opportunities to change. Every consequence was a chance to finally address the substance abuse, the anger issues, the pattern of violence that started when he was 19 and continued into his 40s. But Jared chose the easy path every time. He chose temporary fixes over permanent solutions. He chose image management over genuine growth. And he chose to maintain the facade of reformation while never actually doing the work that real reform requires. Now, at 48, he's running a bar that most customers don't even know he owns, dating a woman he keeps completely off social media, and pretending the past 13 years on reality television never happened. He's probably telling himself it's not his fault. The media destroyed him. Brandi turned on him. A&E abandoned him. Everyone failed him. But the truth is simpler and sadder. Jarrod Schultz failed himself. 16 months in prison surrounded by violent inmates should have been enough to change him. It wasn't. 20 years with Brandi and 2 children should have been enough. They weren't. Reality TV fame and financial success should have been enough. They weren't. And allegedly assaulting Brandi at a bar still wasn't enough to force real transformation. Do you think Jarrod looks back with regret on the decisions he once made? Could there ever be a path to healing and reconciliation with his children? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.